I prepared this video to help you with part 2. So first thing to do is to prepare additional data needed for ratio computations. And the way to do this is to go to the formulas for all the different ratios we're going to have. Those are shown here. And some of the things, we look here for things that we don't otherwise have. One thing is, for example, accounts receivable. So I go here onto the input page and I write in accounts receivable and enter accounts receivable for the current year. So I go to the original balance sheet and here you can see they call it revenue receivable. There it is. And then I've got the prior year here. Actually, there's this joint interest billing receivable too. You know what? I'm going to do both. This is a little unusual, but so I got revenue receivable and joint interest billing receivable together. And then for the prior year, do the same thing. And since I'm doing averages, I'm actually going to need both. I'm going to need 3 years worth of this. And for the base year, again, I go to my balance sheet and I have to go to the prior balance sheet, which is over here. And it is right here. And again, I'm doing both of these. I'm not, just because that's the way this particular company works. And of course, I like everything formatted. It looks nice if it's formatted nicely. So I put commas in there and then remove the decimal points. And the thing to do here is to determine if there's any other items that you need. I'm not going to tell you what they all are. One thing which does come up, I'll tell you this, is when you're calculating free cash flow, here's the formula. Net cash from operating activities minus capital expenditures minus dividends paid. So we don't have any of those items so far here. So we're going to need both of those in the capital expenditures will be one and dividends paid will be another. And where are you going to get these capital expenditures? This question I get quite frequently. You look in the cash flow statement under investing cash flows, and it's oftentimes capital expenditures is called purchase of PP&E. So in this case, it's investment in oil and gas properties, and this is negative. So I want to, because it's being subtracted. So of course I want it to be positive. So I'm going to put a negative minus investment in oil and gas properties because that's negative already. So I want it to be positive because it's obviously positive capital expenditure that I need to subtract. And that's a common mistake that people make. Similarly with dividends paid. So I'm going to write a negative here. When I go to my cash flow statement, it'll show me dividends paid if there are any. Let's see, financing activities, payment of preferred stock dividend. There it is. And that looks like the only dividend here. So 51.39. And again, we want it to be beautiful, so I give it a comma. And I would need the same thing for the prior year also. And there are several other items that are needed. I don't want to give that away because I don't want to deprive you of the fun of looking for them. The next thing that we do is we use the formulas. We use formulas in Microsoft Excel to compute the ratios and do that for the two recent fiscal years. And again, you need to do this with formulas. Do not do this by typing in the numbers. Don't do it with a calculator. Do it with formulas. It's pretty simple. For return on sales, you go to the income statement. It's income divided by revenue. And I've got on my input page here the income statement. So net income, and then I put a slash divided by net sales revenue and 0.0489. And since it's return on sales, it should be done as a percentage, so I do it. I like it to hundredths, but if you do it to tenths, that's okay too. And for the prior year, the same thing. So I go to my input page again, net income, not earnings per share, divided by net sales revenue. This is going to be negative because they have this huge loss. It's, in fact, a monstrous loss. And there you go. And you would do each of the ratios the same way. Now, since we're doing averages, let's do return on sales for a moment. Return on sales, return on assets, I mean. Return on assets would be income divided by the average of ending assets and beginning assets. So I'd get 1.6%. And same thing for the prior year. And you complete all the ratios in this way. And then in the change column, choose the answer that best describes the change in the ratios. So here we have a dramatic improvement in return on sales, so we would say stronger. And here also, well, I didn't do prior year, so we don't know, but it's probably a pretty good indication, judging from return on sales, that this is also stronger. Next, use these formulas that reference the input sheet to complete the DuPont analysis. So to do your DuPont analysis, all you need to do is plug the numbers in from above. So return on sales, you just do it for this year, not the prior year, is 4.89%. Asset turnover is what it is. Return on assets will be what I just calculated here, 1.63%. There is a little thing here with financial leverage that you should know about. You can use total assets divided by total equity, but it might not multiply across to return on equity. In class, I showed you that if you multiply return on assets times financial leverage, you get return on equity. That'll only work if you use average assets and average equity. The thing is that when you calculate financial leverage here, you're going to be using ending. So if this doesn't quite multiply out, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And for those of you who would ask, are you going to be taking points off for it? No, you will not. Next, obtain industry average information. So you go to www.msn.com money. And here I am, msn.com money. And you enter the name of the company. The name of my company here is, you should know, PQ PetroQuest Energy. So right here under search quotes, I enter PQ PetroQuest Energy. And here's all the information. Now to get at the industry average ratios, you need, let me make this a little larger. You click on analysis, and here are the company's ratios. Now some of these may, like net profit margin, by the way, is the same as return on sales. Some of these may be different from the ones you calculated because the company may use different formulas than yours. At the bottom, over here, you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see industry average ratio. So for example, here's a current ratio. For the industry is 1.42. So here, current ratio, 1.42. Leverage ratio is 2.04. That's in the industry. Several of these are not going to be found here. The debt ratio and free cash flow are not going to be here. Also, I don't think this shows accounts receivable turnover. If you click profitability, you'll get more ratios. Oh, wait a minute. You click trading statistics. Now they're gone. Wait. Excuse me, if you click management effectiveness, you'll get more ratios. Return on equity, return on assets, return on capital we don't have much use for, but there's inventory turnover and there's asset turnover. This is a little quirk about MSN Money, is that if this screen size is too large, then some of the industry averages start going away. So you may need to zoom the screen smaller in order to see their asset turnover just came in. At 120%, asset turnover doesn't appear. At 110%, it does. So you got to be very careful that you're able to see all of the ratios. And that's how you find the industry average information. Then enter that information, of course, right here under industry ratios, and plug the numbers in the DuPont analysis. Another little warning here, when you do the DuPont analysis using the industry numbers, it's not quite going to multiply out. So return on sales times asset turnover might be a little different from return on assets. And return on assets times industry financial leverage will be a little different from return on equity. And that's just a quirk of using industry average ratios. And that's the whole thing. So when you're done, take your spreadsheet, print it out, upload it to the Blackboard website, and you completed part 2.